What's going on, guys? You got Kwasi here for Kwasi Animation Studio and Kwasi Media Network. You are presently at the Animation Studio channel. So today we're going to talk about what you clearly saw in the title is creating turbulence, making turbulence, or having a vehicle that's experiencing some level of turbulence, but at the same time, our characters going with it. So this can be interchangeable no matter what program you're using. The thing here is finding or figuring out or knowing the tools that are in your program of choice. So if you're using Blender, this is pretty much, you'll know exactly what's going on. If you're using something else, you just have to use the equivalent of whatever it is that you're using. Unless you're going to use Blender and then export those animations into whatever program you're choosing to use as a render engine. If it's not Blender. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an animation, a slight animation to this vehicle. Okay. And on that animation, we're going to lock a camera to it. So we're going to take a camera. We're going to lock a camera to this vehicle. So to this this helicopter. All right. Okay. And then, but I'm going to lock it to the inside so we can see our characters, right? So let's say right here we can see our characters pretty well. All right. And turn this to 0. This should be 0. So I mean, I can put this to 0. All right, cool. So I'm going to bring this, let's say 30, not 40. Yeah, 40. All right, cool. That's a good one. So no, there is no pilot, but they're not going to die. All right. Okay, so you put location rotation in our keying. Again, this is a Blender specific thing unless you have a program that does something similar. Let me take away some of the headroom. All right, cool. So I know the characters don't match up to the size of the seats, but that's a whole nother monster. We're still just going to work this out. Now, so I'm going to hit I over the location and rotation. And I'm going to constrain the camera to the actual vehicle. Okay, so if I move the vehicle, it's moving, the camera's moving with it. They're not locked. So we're also going to do the same thing to the characters. We're going to put a constraint on them. So we're going to constrain them to the actual chopper. So it's constrained to the chopper. Now, so if I grab the chopper, everybody's moving together, and you can't tell because why? See, everybody's moving together. All right. Now, what I want to do is, because this camera is locked to the actual chopper, I'm going to reduce its influence to half. So now when I move it, we get a little bit of an offset lag. And the reason for that is so when we see the characters move, the camera's going to move with them. So now we want to animate the chopper. So there is a bone. This bone here is the one that does the main control, right? Okay, so if I move this bone, the chopper moves. Okay, you see the characters didn't move with that, but when the animation's done, the characters should move along with the frame of the body. So if I grab the body and move the body, hold on, did I? Oh, I'm still in pose mode. Oops. So let's grab the body, and they'll move with the body because that's what they're locked to. So I might need to constrain it to the rig. Matter of fact, let's do that. So we don't have any problems. Just constrain it to the actual rig. And that was for Natus. No, Lorana. All right. And then just constrain it to that. So now when I animate this, which we'll do it on, let's do it the whole 250 frames. So I'll just hit I, go to the last frame, and let's say to about there. And it's funny because they're still there. Weird. Oh, I didn't constrain to a bone. All right. So anyway, we got that set. I'm gonna make it linear by vectoring it, and then on these characters, so I can make sure I'm doing it right, because I didn't set that up correctly. Got to give it a bone. I'm gonna go exterior, inverse, exterior, inverse. All right. So now when the chopper flies, they fly with the chopper, right? Okay. So now on this chopper, to give it a bit of turbulence, this is the cool part, it's going on the Y. So we hit 1, we can see clearly if we look above, it's on the Y axis. In yours, it might be the Z, because I know other programs differ for Blender in reference to Y being up and down and Blender and Z being back and forth. Okay, so on the Y location, I'm going to add a noise. So you may have whatever is equivalent to yours. So the noise will give it a little bit of jitter, right? We might not be able to tell the jitter. Let me turn this off. Okay, so it's not a lot, but if I come in here and crank this, oh, I did it on the location. I'm sorry. We're gonna do this on the Y rotation. So we're gonna do it on rotation, and then that'll be a whole nother month. See, now it's different. Okay. All right. So what I'm gonna do, since it's 250 frames, I'll do it. Let's see. Let's go to 60 and see what it looks like. We're gonna go 0.1 on the strength level. So in Blender, you have this depth. It allows you to create a bit of variation in that curve. See, so we might get a little slight movement in there. So we come in here, which the camera is now officially not moving with them because I need to change its constraint. What? Oh, it's the pose mode. Change its constraint to the actual chopper's bone offset. All right, so now, what? Oh, the influence. All right. All right, so it's moving with him, but I just wanted to be ever so slightly off a little bit. Okay. So we had to zoom in, so we can see that there's a bit of variation in that. So when I come back over here to this, I gotta go back into pose mode. I want the first bone, which is this one. That's the one we're on. So I want a bit of variation, but I also know I want it to turn left to right. So also on the X, we'll create another noise. So just generate a noise there, so we know it'll go up and down, right? On this one, we'll do 30, and then do this one at 0.05. Because again, keeping it low with a depth of 2. Okay, so I see that it's not as much as I want, 0.1. All right, so the Z, if we see it, it'll turn it left to right. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on the Z. We want to add a variation there. I'm gonna put it at 50 frames, 0.25, a depth of 3. Again, see what we get is a little bit of turbulence. Okay, all right, so there we go. All right, so now on these characters, what we want to do is we want to grab those as well. So let's say in her center here, right? I'm just going to create a keyframe. All right, and all the way to the end, I'll create a keyframe. Okay, so the keyframe has been created. I already know on the Z rotation, she's going to go left to right, right? But I also know I want this offset. So I'm going to go to noise. I'm going to 20. And on this one, we'll do like 0.5, half of it. But there's an offset. So I'm going to take that offset and go to 2 on it. So it's just slightly behind the other thing. And I'm going to give it a size of 2. Okay, see how much is doing that? So let's bring it down to 0.1. Because I want it, again, I want it offset. So I'll keep pushing the offset a little bit more. But hold on, let's just do offset of 1. All right, so let's say 0.05, just to give it just a little bit of variation. Let me turn the overlay off. Now this same rotation could be added to maybe her neck or her head. I'd probably just do her head since it's already there. Oh, I'm thinking the keyframe is already there. All right, so in this case, let me do something with the camera also, since it has a keyframe. And I'm gonna give it a keyframing, and I'm just gonna push it back ever so slightly because I want to keep them in frame. And I'm gonna vector that and leave it alone. All right, I'll push it down. All right, so we go back to her on her head, and again I'm gonna go Z because I know that's where it's at. Another noise, 20, and do 0.04 with an offset of 1. I mean, a depth of 1 and an offset of 1.5. All right, so that offset isn't enough for me. I want to crank it up a little bit. Bring it down a little bit, yeah. It's still a little too much. Push this back some. So again, just finding it. See, so now we get that little bit of where she's rocking with the plane. See if I turn the offset off. Yeah. See? So you get this bit of change. And she's slightly offset. And that's one way you would go about doing this, because when you could do it by hand, but then you'll be putting yourself in a position where you now have to time three different things, when really using the noise will put you in a position where you can just sort of make adjustments on the fly, just per a curve. Okay, so let's say I grab him. Let's go all the way to 250. Do the same thing. We know it's on the Z rotation. Again, noise. I'm gonna go 25 on his. He may be able to handle it a little bit better. Say 0.15, offset of 0.2, depth of 3. Say 3. All right, go. All right, so I'm giving him a depth of 2, no 1. Say 20. Yeah, like towards the end of that was cool right there, like that bump. You get to see them sway a little bit, but see, this first one is a little bad to me, so I'm gonna push it forward some because I don't want them swaying that hard. Let's see. Yeah, that first one is crucial. Why is it so big? There we go. All right. Again, see, I can make an instant adjustment. Come back. Let me turn this so we can only see what we're looking at. I drag Z, not cycles. Even though a cycle would work, but I wouldn't recommend using that unless you just completely wanted to go haywire. 20.1, depth of 1. And on this one, I probably crank it a little bit so his head moves a little bit more than his body. There we go. No depth on it. No, I want a depth, say of 2, offset a little. Bring it down a little bit more. Ooh, he's a little off. So again, being able to make those slight adjustments. All right, so we turn the overlay off so we can see it better. And there you go. So you still get that bit of wiggle. It's not extreme. It's just ever so slight. And to say, for instance, that end part where the ship sort of tosses like that, and you want it to be extreme, in Blender, I know specifically, you can stack them. So let's click the same bone, and here I'll stack it, and I'll create another noise, and I want just right here. So we're gonna frame restrict it, and I'll say it like 220. It'll start at 220, and it'll end just as it drops. So let's say 240. All right, so 240 with an out of 3. So just give it like a 3-frame blend out. All right, so here I'll probably say 6 and be like 0.2, because I want it to just be like, see what I'm saying? So it's like he gets jeered pretty crucial right there. So it goes up. So I'm thinking on that one, since, hold on, let's take it to that frame and push it out a little further. So you can finesse it some. So let's say 223 to 250. All right, so that bump is crucial. Let's say 10. There you go. See? So, and the head still pretty much follows. So you're going along, turn the overlay off. Is the ship missing pieces, or are we just in the, oh no, it's there. Yeah, so you see it in render mode. So we get a little bit more wiggle because we stack the effect. So stacking the effect allows me to be able to do that where, let's say for instance, because depending on the person, not everyone's going to sway the same direction. So if I wanted to do this again when it comes to her, I would just grab her on the same one where I gave her the thing and do the same thing. Just come in and go noise. I'd still say like 8 to 10, maybe 0.1, and then again give it restricted to that same set of frames. So 223 to 245, say. Let's say with an offset of 3 again. So right here we got the offset of 3. come out. They both kind of shutter just right at that point when it does that. So the effect is stacked, and now we get the effect we want because we know that the plane is getting has like again it's get I mean the helicopter is getting a bit of turbulence, real crucial right there, but we still get that shift. Now understand these characters are in IK. Okay, so now let me make this clear. If you're using a program like iClone, Unreal, or something else like that, and you're using armature that is already IK rigged, okay, when I say armature, we talking the skeleton bones, not just this. You can do the same thing. So because I'm using a control rig, doesn't matter. I could have done this with an IK rigged armature. So still, you can still do this. You're not out of the ballpark here, okay? That effect could still be taking place, but all I'm saying is know the tool that works for you in this manner in the program that you're using that is not Blender. If you're in Blender, here it is. Now understand, the only thing I did was the same keyframe all the way across from 0 to 250. And we get this effect. And there was nothing but there's only 2 keyframes for both things. All 3 things. The helicopter has 2 keyframes and the characters have 2 keyframes. And the noise is doing the work for us. This is what you get in studio environments. This is what you get in even indie projects. A lot of people are trying to overdo things and trying to create this semblance of something, but you can get that same feel and effect from here. If you watch movies like Star Wars or whatnot, let's say, I think it was episode 3 or whatnot, whichever one it is where Yoda is fighting Dooku, he has his cane. When that cane wiggles, the guy that animated it said, they asked him, what'd you do right there? He was like, it's just a noise modifier. Like, it's just a noise. Just put noise on it. So it'll just wiggle ever so slightly. But it breaks. So it has a bit of depth on it. So it doesn't just continuously wiggle. It'll kind of pan out a little bit, then wiggle here and there. But it's just like jiggle. This is the same effect. It's just a little bit more crucial because we want them to have an offset to the chopper. So if the chopper goes left, they go right. But they'll adjust because you automatically your body always tries to go back to center. And that's the point that we want to make here. That's the thing we want to show. So this is what I'm saying. If your rig, no matter if it's a base armature that has IK attached, IK on it, an IK armature, or a control rig that is in IK, this effect will work for you. Now you can do it with FK, but then you're going to be having to adjust every bone. It's just better to do this with IK because it's specific to this shot. So hopefully you're doing your shots in incrementally and not all trying to do it all in the same file. Like this should be one shot. Then when you switch again, it's a whole nother file that's specific to this shot, or at least another shot altogether. Because I don't know how your program works, but I know in Blender, I'm just going to, for each shot I'll have, for each of my shots is a blend file. Instead of it being all in the same thing, because now you're having a lot of muddled situations. So with this is what I would do with that. I would just keep this separate from the other shot. So you got a shot for her where she's doing dialogue, a shot for him, he's doing dialogue. That would be a whole nother file, and still with the same effect, but still all those things would be on top of each other. So to answer that question, yes, you can still do this effect with an animation on top of it because it would be layered. So now you would use your layering. So here we know there's a layer here, and a layer here. So if for instance, to demonstrate that, because I know somebody's going to still ask anyway, even though I just clearly said you can do it. Say for instance on her rig, we add a layer. So I don't know how it sits up in your thing. You might use motion blender, you might be using something iClone or whatever, I don't know. But in here, I create a layer, and on this action tab, I can go to, I'm gonna go hold forward and add. So in addition to what's already happening, I can come in and add more animation on top of that. So here I've just hit I, and let's say she's going to look over at him. So we get a little bob and weave, and I'll just do it here. And then let's say I want to go 16 frames and I want her to turn and look at him. So I'll just have her look towards him. Right. So I'll do the same thing here because I want both of these to be together. I don't want it to be separate. All right. All right. And then, because you know the neck is gonna sort of turn with the head, right? So that makes sense, right? All right, so on these two here, this first one I'm gonna vector, but I also know that your head may either go faster ahead of your neck or sometimes behind it. But in this case, I'm going to put the head ahead by 1 frame by pushing it back. So it goes a little bit ahead by 1 frame. All right. All right. So I don't like how short it is, so I'm going to go a little bit further. In my case, I'm going to use a tween tool. You may have a tween style tool in yours. Use it. All right. But you still get that same effect. You see that? So even if I added this to that, okay, and she's still looking at him, nothing's changed. All right. And again, if we let it keep rolling, her head is still bobbed with the, see, nothing's changed. So you can still do those things together. All right. And that's the whole key here, is being able to use this functionally. All right. And say we keep going forward a little bit, get to right there. And then on 23 frames, we'll go back to where we started. Okay, so there we go. And that is that. That's all I can say. I'm not gonna keep beating it up. So, yeah. And that part towards the end I really like, because you get this instant wobble because the chopper itself is jolting a little bit more. They hit a pocket. So there you have it. So I hope to help someone. Keep at it. Don't stop. None but love.